Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Social Work Bubble podcast. I'm your host, Laura. I'm a licensed master social worker here in New York, and today we welcome a special guest, Iriel Nunnery, M.S.W., who will be speaking on navigating grad school, post-MSW life, preparing for licensure, and some work in non-traditional social work settings. So we're covering a lot. Thank you so much, Iriel, for coming on.
No problem. Thank you so much for, checking my DM because I really didn't think I was going to get checked.
I'm so glad you could be here.
I'm so excited to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Of course. Now, for those listening, before we get into today's episode, don't forget to like, share, and follow the podcast on wherever you're listening, and we'll kind of dive in. So, Iriel, do you mind introducing yourself to the listeners, kind of, your background and what you're currently doing?
Sure. So, my name is Iriel Nunnery, and I am a MSW from New Orleans, Louisiana. I just obtained my MSW from Louisiana State University, LSU. I really enjoy what I do, especially with social work. I was raised by a single mom. She had me when she was 17. I was raised in a 1-bedroom shotgun house with my great grandmother and my mother. And, I knew it was like to, not have all opportunities or have, not have all the opportunities, but also just have like a sense of just non-entitlement and struggles and all that stuff. So I always knew anything that I got, I never took for granted. But I also knew that I always wanted to help people. I just didn't know at what capacity. I knew I wanted to help people. And I knew it wasn't nursing though. I knew it was nothing in the medical field though.
I was the same way.
Medical field was out. Now, I didn't think about law. I thought about law for a good minute, but then I was like, dang, it's so much schooling for law. But then, and little did I know for social work, but it really flies. But then, I got a chance to really get introduced to certain things, and it really showed me that I wanted to, help people. And then God showed me, social work was my path. So then I got into social work.
Exciting. All right. Did you have any particular concentration or anything with your MSW?
Yes. So my concentration was a specialty in youth and family services. So a lot of my things surrounded just like the family structure or youth and like adolescents in general. Even though younger kids are not my forte, I do love them and they love me, but it's like, oof.
Yes. Yeah. We all have different groups that feel best for us.
Yes.
Good. Was there any one thing that led you to social work or any moment when you realized, oh, this is for me?
Yes. So it was multiple. I think God really gave me a lot of validation in terms of social work. So I was never introduced to social work in terms of like, CPS or anything like that, but I was always introduced to it as, something that was on television and always televised of like, someone in which I truly hate of like just a social worker taking a child away from a family and stuff like that. Those simple types of like stereotypics, social work, backgrounds. So that's how I was introduced to social work, but it wasn't until I had a positive introduction to it when I was doing what I'm doing now, which was I was in a program which was a college readiness program called Upward Bound, and at the University of New Orleans, UNO, and they just provided me with so many resources in terms of like college readiness, ACT prep. I remember one time I was failing French. They found me a French tutor. Didn't know a lick of French, but I learned French that year. This provided me every resources that I needed, believed in me so that I could go to college, obtain any goal that I wanted to. And it was run by people who were social workers, educators. And once I saw like the influence like they had in people's lives, especially mine, I was like, this is what I want to do. I said, I don't know what it is, but I want to do this. And then they told me, like, well, if that's what you want to do, you should go into social work. So then I took up my undergrad degree in sociology with my concentration in social work.
Oh, great.
And I think around my junior year, I had this social service type class. And like the first case was just like, you see a parent on food stamps and they need help to assistance. And it was just like a case vignette. And I was like, oh, I said, this is a case? I said, this is so exciting. I was like, this is where I need to be. I said, should we go with food stamps? Oh my God, this is it. So I think just throughout my journey with social work, and even when I went to like a social work panel for the first time, like
Yeah.
a person who is like, that's one of my main people. She said something that always stuck with me. It was like, you don't really choose social work chooses you. Like, not everybody has the passion for it, not everybody has the heart for it, but if you're here, that's because it chose you, not because you chose it.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of it. Everybody I surround myself with, I feel like it always chose them. And people who I talk to or I have a strong bond with in this field is because of, social work choosing them. So I think it just was a lot of validation. So yeah.
Absolutely. What a journey.
I know.
I feel like that's so often though, I think that resonates with a lot of social workers as we're first introduced to social work through that stereotypical taking kids away, separating family, like all these negative things that we see. Cause like, I didn't know anything about social work because I started off in school as a nursing major, which I hated. And I'm just like, there must be something else. Like, come on. And that's when like that was introduced to me, like social work was even an option. So I think so many people, exactly what you're saying, like it kind of finds you also because like there's not really, they don't have good marketing for social work.
No, and that's one of my biggest goals, especially just like to change the narrative of social work. Like, I feel like as social workers, we advocate and we do a lot for our clientele, but we don't do enough for ourselves. And it's a lot of just like us giving ourselves to other people. And it's just like, as much as we pour our cups, we don't refill them. And I want to make sure that as social workers, we are seen and we are heard and we are understood. Like, the fact that people don't understand the difference between us and a CP, like in counseling, is very annoying. And it's just very it's sometimes very disrespectful because we can do so much more and we can be in so many different avenues and so many different, like, we could just be so much more. And if the people had the education behind all the stuff that we can do, then, they could put a little bit more respect on our titles.
Absolutely.
The disrespect sometimes be there. But
100%. Oh my gosh. So you did undergrad. What made you decide to go on further to grad school to get your MSW?
Because my undergrad degree was in sociology, I knew for a fact that I would have to go back to school. I just honestly didn't know what. It was either counseling or social work. And the only reason I did think about counseling was because I really loved my undergrad university and especially my experience and the people who were there. And I just kind of wanted to hold that feeling, but I was like, no, I have to do what's best for me. So that's when I was like, I wanted to go and pursue social work. So that's when I pursued my master's degree at LSU.
Right. Was there anything, because you did a focus on then like children and family services?
Yes.
What made you kind of lean into that?
Children have always liked me. I don't know. I can say if I like children, but it was really between that and school social work. School social work was something that I was always interested in, but I just never gained the exposure with.
Yeah.
So I really didn't want to do school social work as my specialty because I never gained it and I didn't want to get stuck into an internship and I didn't know what it was.
Right.
So, but with, services for families and children, I interned with DCFS before. So, I've had that background of, connecting with families and, doing that family structures and, learning about families. So that's why I kind of wanted to do that specialties. And even though, sometimes I hate that I'm good at it, but I'm just really good at connecting dots with people, especially in terms of just like hearing what everybody has to say and, just making sure that everybody's being heard. So I was like, let me just not, let me not keep questioning what God keep giving to me. So let's do it.
Can't ignore our gifts.
No, you can't do it.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Now, so you decided to get your MSW then, went to a different university. What was that? What was your experience like getting your MSW?
It was hard. It was hard. Oh my goodness. I cannot downplay my experience with my MSW because I thought my undergrad degree was hard, but that MSW, it made me work.
Yeah.
So at LSU, we had a very non-traditional program to where like it wasn't the same 9, every other program is like you have to get 9 credit hours, you go or you do a thesis option. No, we had to do 15 credit hours, and one of those credit hours were internship hours. So we would be in class about 6 hours every for 2 days out of the week, and then for the rest of the week, for 2 days, we would be in our internship working like full-time hours. So that was just, it was very draining in terms of just like having coursework on top of internship, on top of making sure like you just have everything ready for your internships in terms of logging your hours or any other projects or anything like that.
Right.
Also, I was a graduate assistant, so I was trying to make sure that my tuition was paid for and all that stuff. So I was a graduate assistant on top of that, so I would work nights in my graduate assistantship and do my specialized project and do my job.
Oh my gosh.
And then on top of that, just trying to balance just like your social, like your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your social battery. Sometimes I feel like I really went through it my first semester, and then also adjusting to a new school and like having to somehow relearn things that weren't taught to you. Like coming from a sociology background, a lot of the things that I learned in my master's degree was the first time I was exposed to it. Whereas some people who were coming with like a psychology background, or people who came from like family and consumer sciences or stuff like that, or human sciences, they kind of had the exposure already, where I sometimes didn't. So it was sometimes like a learning gap too. So I would have to work even harder. So I would say it was hard, but I feel like it was so far it was one of the worst, the most rewarding things that I've done. Like, even though it kicked my ass, it did. I felt so like empowered by it. I feel like I can do anything. Like, I've met some of the greatest people in my journey in my master's program, and exposed myself to some of the best professors. I learned so much about the field that I did not know, and I so appreciated to what I did learn.
And that's huge. It's interesting. I don't know what it is, but I also felt like I grew the most when I was in grad school. Because even though, I had my bachelor's in social work, so I had all my social work education, but there was something about grad school where I just felt challenged in a different way, where I was like, yikes, okay.
I felt like, how in undergrad you felt like you were an adult, but you was like, I'm an adult. But in grad school, I felt like an adult. I felt like this was my grown woman stuff. Like, I was going through everything I needed to go through, but I was like, Lord, this is hard. Like, I didn't expect this. So
absolutely. Was there anything you felt like was missing during your education in grad school?
Yes, I definitely feel like exposure to certain things in terms of just like more things in the field. I felt like I wish I would have had the opportunity to be exposed to more fields within social work. Like, if I was if I got the chance to really, go into like a vet and like see if I wanted to work with veterans, or if I wanted to really, work with the school system, because I was never exposed to stuff like that. So I didn't know if I wanted to do it. Medical, like I was always curious about medical, never really had the opportunity to really experience medical social work. So I really wish I had the opportunity to just be exposed to more that the field had to offer, because the field is so broad. So like, it's just endless of how many things you can do with it. Financial social work. I know they have this new thing where it has like, pet social work or animal social work. Like, they have so many fields of it, and it's just like you only can combust so many things in 2 years. So I just wish that we can have like more exposure and just more time to just like, really see what we want to do outside of it. Because once you graduate, you're like, okay, what do I do now? Like, where do I want to go? So
you're right too. We can only squeeze so much into a couple of years, but I feel like so many of the options we just didn't even know until like after the fact, where it's like, oh, this is a part of social work. What?
And it's just so weird. It's just like, I really don't know what we can do. Maybe like mini sessions or something like that, just for like, if you wanted to just do like a mini session of just like, just an introduction of what this is, or just even do like a field day of like just introductions of like, hey, this is social work too. Hey, this is social work too. Hey, did you know that this is social work? Just a little bit of exposure I feel can go a long way. So
Absolutely. Because even thinking about field experience, like if you do social work in undergrad, you have an internship, and then you have your field placement or internship in grad school. That's 2 experiences.
right, that's
And so
it.
it's kind of like, okay, we know 2 things we may or may not want to do, but
Right, because my first one was with homeless, and although I loved my clients, I knew for a fact that was something that I didn't want to do. But then my second one was with DCFS, and that was great too. But it was just like I felt very stereotyped there. I was just like, I feel like I didn't really gain as much exposure that I would have wanted. Like if I would have did something policy related, or maybe did something in the schools, then that would have been different, because it's something that I was interested in, and I didn't get the validation of knowing if that's something that I wanted to pursue.
Right, absolutely. In grad school in particular, when you have to choose a concentration or like a pathway, it's like you're cut off from everything else, where it's like, like I chose the clinical route in grad school, but like macro work still interests me. It's still a part of the social work that we do. I have no idea anything about that at this point.
Yes, very much so. I definitely get it.
Now, I mean, with your experience, was there anything that you felt like was particularly helpful while you were in grad school?
The topics, just like I remember going into my first policy class and just learning about like the history in terms of just like how all these social work policies came from simply from social work. Just saying how like we have the no child left behind policy. We have the how food stamps came about. Like learning that history really helped me. And my professor, she was amazing too. She really helped me. Also, just kind of learning about like practice, and learning about like just human actions and just human movements and the way to put things, especially family dynamics. I'm very interested in family dynamics, so that was great too. I think my classes were kind of just like, I love the topics. I just wish I had more topics. That's it. That was the only thing I wish.
Never quite feels like enough.
Yes, it don't.
Now, when did you graduate with your MSW?
So I just graduated recently in May.
Exciting.
Yes, it don't feel real. I'm telling you, it don't feel real. It's just a little title,
It's a little thing.
It's a little,
Oh, wow. What has it been like for you? I mean, post-grad now.
Well, currently I am working, but like I said, it just feels weird. Like I feel like I'm just on this new like wave of just self-discovery, like just seeing who I am as Iriel outside of school. Like, we've been confined to school for the last 20 years since I'm 25. So like the last 21 years, we've been confined to being in a certain place and identifying as a student. So I think it's just really right now me just trying to figure out who I am outside of being a student. Like, what does that look like with me having so much more time? What does that mean with me having so much energy? Like, what do I want to do with this now? So it's just really just like identifying and just self-discovery.
Absolutely. That's huge too, because so much of our life has been structured around school and academic accomplishment and validation, where it's like, okay, we got to grad school. That's like one of the highest things you could do. Now what? Like, what does my life look like now?
Yes. And it's just like and I always have plans to go back to schools, and go back to school and, obtain my doctorate and stuff. But I still want to take that self-discovery and just like learn who I am as myself before I go back to giving that identity of being a student.
Absolutely. Because it's already, I mean, social work is already hard on top of trying to like be like, okay, who am I? Like, what feels good for me?
You sitting there giving your all to clients and you're not even giving your all to yourself. And it's just like, ooh, let's do it.
Absolutely. How is work right now?
I love my job currently. Like, I currently love my job. I feel like I like to call it the calm before the storm. Like, I think I came in at a time where it's just like you're good right now, you're cooling, and it's just like before I'm getting bombarded of like, okay, this is what you need to do. Here's all your stuff. These are all your students. All right, and go. Like, I feel like I'm actually easing into my role. Like, and I appreciate the ease.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. It's important too, because I think any first job after graduating is really intimidating. It's overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is for real now.
Yes, I'm like, I'm a big girl. I mean, I don't know. My theme song in my head is the I'm a big kid now.
Yeah.
That's been my theme song in my head ever since I started working.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, you said you're preparing for the licensing exam now too. What made you decide to even pursue licensure?
Just knowing that I feel like with licensure, like you have so many, I feel like in social work world, we have so many peaks. And I feel like, your ultimate like high level when you get your social work degree is to be a BACS.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure that I'm on the right level to where I'm doing everything to get to my peak in social work. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was the first step of like just, studying for my licensure and just officially seeing like, where do I fit in with social work? And that starts with getting like an LMSW. So I want to get my LMSW. Then after that, do what I need to do to get my clinical license.
There we
And
go.
if I say then from that, see about the backs.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to keep evolving in this field. Like I want to keep doing everything I can to evolve even more. So I can, do stuff for other people and, just be more of a role model, especially with social work.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you're right too that in social work, as much as I think like with people's different experience, like you by no means need a license or like higher education in order to really excel and know what you're doing and talking about. But if you want to make money and pay off your loans, I mean, getting that license and then that clinical license will certainly help.
Come on now, like one thing about me, two things for facts. I'm about my money.
Mm-hmm.
And with social work, they already say it's like an unpaid field, but it's just like you have to do what you need to do in order to get paid. And I'm going to do that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how have you been preparing for licensing? Like, do you have the actual exam like scheduled yet? Are you just studying right now? See how it feels?
Right now I have the best study group ever. Shout out to them, love them down. I have we meet every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we just do practice questions together. If there's, I've been using like the Ages of Change study materials, and I've also been using like the stuff from like the actual A.B.S.W exam, like those study materials too.
Yeah.
And the first thing I ever did was, just wanted to see where I was at. So first thing I did was take a practice test.
Good
So
idea.
yeah, first thing, try to see where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I scored this. If I need probably like 10 to 15 more, get where I want to be. So after that, just been doing practice tests, really just been looking at the lectures and like learning things that I feel like I needed to, just remind myself about. In that practice test also that I took, they had like a subsection to where like each question was in a section, like within like a certain topic. So if I felt like I was lagging in a certain topic, I would go review that topic. So and like I said, I loved having my study group because they were the best people to like just like wing off of like, I answered the question like this. How did you answer the question? And it was like, well, I saw it like this. I'm like, okay, I didn't think of it like that. And sometimes we'd be arguing with the book. We're like, no, because we feel like this is right. We like, no, we feel like this is right. This ain't no way this is right. This don't make no sense of why this is right.
Right.
So, but it's really been a journey. I've been studying for about like a month or two. And I'm scheduled to take my test. I'm going to take it in probably mid-August.
Oh, it's coming up.
Yeah.
That is so helpful though, just to get feedback from other people. Because especially with the exam questions, like so many of them honestly could be right, but you just have to like really focus in on, okay, what is this question actually asking? What are they wanting from me? Because I mean, it's tricky. Like they try to trick you on some of them.
And then also it just be like, it be the tiredness. Like sometimes I just really get tired of reading questions. I'm like, oh my God, this is another question. I have to read it.
Yeah.
So it's just like me learning my body and me learning like when I am about to, switch from being like fully engaged to being like, oh my God, like I'm in my head. I need to get out my head. So just learning myself has been a real thing too, because personally, I'm not a strong test taker. Like I'm not a sit there for 4 hours, can concentrate and focus. I'm not that person. So this has really been like a challenge for me and kind of a fear that I'm trying to overcome.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's just like, and I mean, the A.S.W too. I mean, they came out with all this nonsense about just how discriminatory their test is anyways. And
Yes. And it's just like, you know about the racial biases, you know about the discriminatory questions, and yet, there's still all these things that need to be changed, and they're not changed yet. So.
Well, we do what we have to do.
I know, because like I told you, I want my coins, so
That's right. Good. Is there any kind of like self-care you've been doing as you're preparing and studying?
I have been binge watching. Like, when I say I have been just watching television and just napping. Like, I'm a nap. I love a good nap. So that's one thing I've been doing recently, is just like napping and just binge watching TV.
Good. That's great. I mean, studying is draining, especially for an exam like this. You got to take that time.
Yes.
Good. Now, I mean, in kind of transitioning to non-traditional social work roles, what would you qualify as that? Like, what do you define as non-traditional social work?
Well, currently I am not in social work. Like, I do have my social work background, and I feel like a lot of the skills that I use personally right now is transferable, but it's not in the social work realm. Currently I work as an academic coordinator with LSU's Upward Bound program.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So with the program, like I said before, like I did it when I was in high school. It's a college readiness program. And basically my role is really just giving, students the tools that they may need to just advance into higher education, or even just like, even if higher education is just like, what is that next step for me? What does after post high school life look like for me? So, that's what I'm currently doing right now. And like I said, it's more in the higher academic realm, and that's something that I've been comfortable with since I was in undergrad, really. My higher education, career journey really started when I worked in admissions when I was in undergrad, and then from working in admissions, being a GA in the African American Cultural Center. So I just kind of stayed with my comfort level and stayed in higher education, but I'm still doing my social work. I feel like due diligence and still being with youth and, just connecting with their families, because it's not just me just talking to them. It's me connecting with their families, because with Upward Bound, we have like a policy to where, like, as we hold your kids accountable, we're going to hold you accountable, parent.
Oh,
so
right.
if we need this from you, we expect these things from you. So, I'm still working with those same like family dynamics and stuff like that, but it's, like, in a non-traditional role.
Absolutely. I think that's so valuable too, because there are so many different jobs where I look at it and I'm like, this should be a social worker job. Someone should have a social work background here.
Oh, facts. And I'm like, and if I see it in the thing, it was like, we look for people who have like, we look for psych, counseling, social work. I'm like, let me real quick. So, and the thing is though, with roles like that, it's so weird because they come in so many different like labels and so many different like things, like you said, with things you'll look at and be like, dang, this sounds like social work, but it's not labeled as social work.
Right.
So, and my biggest thing is that I never want to just hone myself into just like the counseling realm or like the clinical realm. I really wanted to make sure that I had that practice-based approach. And, I am still like providing people with resources, but also, using some of my counseling skills.
Absolutely. What do you feel is the benefit for social workers going into more non-traditional settings?
The exposure, just like exposing yourself to stuff that's outside social work. I feel like just making sure that, you're taking these non-traditional roles, because people see how versatile you are. I feel like social work, it's such a growing role it's such a growing like profession that you could really be anything and still have those transferable skills. And that's what people look at to hire you, is to see that you're adaptable, but you also can transfer a lot of the skills that you took. People saw me as a social work, my social work background. It's like, oh my God, as a social worker, you can, do crisis intervention. You can do, sessions with kids if you wanted to, because you have that background. And you could still, it's like, you're not losing those skills. Actually, you're going to practice those skills and not be stressed out or overworked. And I feel like sometimes those social work jobs do that because they hire you as a social worker, but I feel like it comes with more stress.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can still like use those skills, be in social work, but not really.
Yes.
Good. Now, I mean, as a social worker, how do you think a social worker would typically transition to a non-traditional role?
I feel like I feel like we would transition well because, like I said, a lot of our skills are transferable. But I feel like one thing you have to do in terms of transition is being open to the transition. Like you can't go into the transition and being like, I'm not used to doing this, or I'm not gonna do this, or not like this is not what I was expecting. Like you have to be open to that change and being like, okay, this is not what I'm typically used to doing, but I'm gonna see what it is, and I'm gonna see what it is and how I can do it the best that I can, and I'm just gonna go from there. Like I feel like as social workers, we're so used to being great at our job, and so used to doing the same thing that when we are new to something, we're like, I don't like this because I'm not good at it. When in actuality, we may be really great at it. We just need time to get used to it. So.
Very true. That open mind, flexibility.
Yes, I would say the same thing we preach to our clients is the same thing we preach to ourselves.
Very true. Very true. Wonderful. Now, if you were to give just one piece of advice, whether it's to people that are currently students, pursuing licensure, exploring maybe that transition, what advice would you give?
Create opportunities for yourself. If you see something in your program, specifically for students, if you see something in your program, or if you see something wrong, or you just don't see something for you, go search for them opportunities yourself. Like, do not wait on the school. Do not wait on others. Do it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, I've learned, especially with social work, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to go for those opportunities. It's okay to find those own opportunities and just present it to them. Like, do it for yourself. And at the end of the day, you can always say that you tried and you did it. Like, don't wait on nobody. Do it for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, there'll always be things that come up. You have to live your life for you.
Yes. In a selfish field, be selfish sometimes. Like, it is okay to be selfish. Like, I feel like people, like, especially in social work, we have such big hearts. We have such big, big ambitions, but we like to downplay ourselves. And I'm like, no, like, how am I supposed to uplift my client if I'm not uplifting myself? If I don't see potential in myself? Absolutely.
Well, Iriel, this has been a great conversation. I love this. I think you have such an amazing journey, and I think really just good perspective on social work and like how we can transition to another field, how we can show up for people. For the people that are listening, where can they continue to follow your journey?
Well, if y'all would like to follow me on Instagram, y'all are more than welcome to. I feel so weird for doing this. But my name is on Instagram is IRIEL_AKA_IRE. And like I said, if y'all follow me, I will follow y'all back. And I thank you again for this interview, because listen.
Well, it's been so great talking and having you on. And I think a lot of people really took something from this, because I think on the podcast too, I tend to get a lot of people that have already been in the field for a really long time. And it's different. There's a lot of students out there that are in school, currently transitioning out of school. And the last few years after COVID and just with the social work reputation, we need a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Yes. And I am so happy to give my thoughts and my opinions, but also just give anything that y'all may need. And like, if y'all DM me, I'm here.
There we go. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening. As always, everything like Iriel's Instagram will be linked below. If anything resonated with you today, please feel free to like, comment, and share, and we will see you next time.